Woldetensai back to Clark after Woldetensai on Saturday hit 7 threes, went 7 of 10 in that win against Louisville. Key had a look from the corner and stepped out of bounds. The ball belongs to Notre Dame.
And along with the lower shooting percentages this season from beyond the three-point arc, which we've seen all over the country, that has been the biggest adjustment, is stepping on the sideline out of bounds. You know, the distance difference has made many guys uncomfortable in taking that retreat step and normally resulting in a turnover.
The three-point arc got wider. The court did not, creating less space in the corners. After the miss by Gibbs, it's the Cavaliers looking to get on the perimeter, his first.
When you see the court, of course, I know the colors here, although I'm colorblind, I know what colors those are. That orange line is the old line, the blue line, the new line, and when you take that difference into consideration, many guys all throughout the season have been taking that retreat step, stepping on that line. As Woldetensai is able to get the rare mid-range jumper to go down, but he's playing with a tremendous amount of confidence, especially on the offensive end of the floor.
He had 27 in that loss against Louisville on Saturday after the Cavaliers had won 9 straight against the Cardinals. Mooney from the block. Diakite's a tough defender and thwarts his try.
Because of one of the things that you look at right now, we look at Notre Dame who's had 3 offensive possessions, and the basketball has gone inside every time. I can't remember the last time I've watched Notre Dame play, and they have had this much emphasis on playing inside, especially when Bonzi Colson wasn't on the floor.
Diakite misses. Speaking of Colson, the last time that they went on a 4-game winning streak like this was when they won 6 straight. You go back to the 2016-2017 season. And as they've gone inside to start, what benefit do they derive from starting the offense inside out?
Well, one of the things, you can get Virginia to help and then get a pass out and open up someone on the perimeter for one of the threes, which we know Notre Dame can do so well.
Durham short corner and splashes it through.
And nice play by Jawan Durham, but I can tell you right now that Tony Bennett will let you know if that's the way Notre Dame is going to beat you, by Jawan Durham shooting step backs on the baseline, then they're just going to have to lose, because they will concede that shot to Durham if they can keep the ball out of the hands of T.J. Gibbs and John Mooney.
Most of the scoring for the Notre Dame big man, the senior out of Tampa, comes much more close to the basket. Braxton Key, back rim, and grabs his own miss. Hub had started to leak out for the Irish. Woldetensai has the first 5 for Virginia.
And we spoke with Tony Bennett before the game, and one of the things that he talked to us about was there was a little more freedom for his players to take those shots when they got them, simply because opportunities were so difficult to come by. Prentice Hub comes off and answers that 3 on the other end of the floor. But we saw Woldetensai with a full shot clock knock down the 3 ball off the offensive rebound. And Tony Bennett has given him that freedom to take those shots because he shot the basketball so well as of late.
Bennett says as long as it's the right shot, a good look, the shot's okay. Sometimes there's a hesitancy. Huff to the rim. It was halfway down. Hesitancy there cost him. Instead of stuffing it through, it pops out, and it's Notre Dame ball.
Indecision on the behalf of Huff, but for Woldetensai, who did not step out of bounds, the nice turnaround.
Could look very different for the Cavaliers.
It really does, and Virginia is gaining confidence on the offensive end of the floor. A lot of that has to do with Thomas Woldetensai shooting the basketball the way he has. 2 of his last 4 games, he has had 7 3-pointers in each of those games. So he's shooting the basketball better and has raised up the percentage from Virginia beyond the arc, which has been a struggle all season long.
A fun night after Syracuse and NC State go head-to-head to continue the ACC on ESPN. And an excited crowd for this game with Virginia back at home. It's been a roller coaster season in a number of ways, given what they did last year to this year, where they were preseason number 11 in the AP poll. They've been ranked as high as number 5 this season, but they've been out of the top 25 altogether since they were 18th back on January 6th. Nobody is happier right now to be at 500 in the ACC, 6-6, than Mike Brey. Even though they're in a rough stretch right now, winning 4 straight, the outlook on their season has changed, going from 2-6 to 6-6.
And also going to consider, according to Joe Lunardi, regarding the NCAA tournament. And right now, Mike Brey happy that his team is back in the conversation. That's going to be a great defensive play by Walter Tenzai, knocking the basketball off of T.J. Gibbs. And that's one of the advantages you have. You play against Notre Dame, you don't get many turnovers. They are one of the best in the country when it comes to taking care of the basketball. So you have to take advantage of those if you're Virginia, and they give you the opportunities.
Two teams that do not give it up very often. Notre Dame, #1 in the country, where they've sat 1 or 2 most of the year in assist-to-turnover ratio, and they lead out of 353 teams entering action tonight. And as you referred to just moments ago, you've got 4 ACC bubble teams playing tonight. We had NC State and Syracuse preceding us. And here Virginia, the only team in the field among that group right now, along with Notre Dame, that is in consideration, according to Joe Lunardi's latest bracketology this afternoon.
And this is the time of year where it really starts to ramp up. Each and every one of these games becomes more and more pressure-packed, because wins, of course, help your resume, and losses really hurt you. The time between games for coaches gets pretty intense, especially when you know you've got to get some wins to get into the tournament field. And Mamadi Diakite with a nice move along the baseline to finish to tie the game at 7.
Schwarzenegger-level strength taking that to the basket. 4 ACC teams projected in right now from Joe Lunardi. Louisville, Duke, Florida State, the clear trio, separated itself weeks ago from the rest of the conference, and Virginia behind them comes in 7-5 on the year in the conference play. Mooney lines up the 3. Pfluger tried for the tip, and it's Walter Tenzai to grab it for the Cavaliers. A somewhat anomalous season for the ACC in terms of the number of teams projected into the field. Meanwhile, a great year for the Big Ten. Yet, in the top 10 of the AP poll, the ACC leads the country with 3 teams.
And neither of these teams have been great scoring teams all year long, although when you think of Notre Dame, you think about their offense. And with a veteran group playing better basketball, especially with Rex Pfluger coming off a season-high 18 points versus Clemson, where he knocked down a career-high 4 3-pointers, they have more and more confidence, especially coming into this gym. But they recognize that it's going to be about what they're able to do defensively and keeping Virginia under wraps, because they don't feel as though it will be a high-scoring game. And just like that, you see Notre Dame going to that zone defense, which we felt we would see from them early enough because of Virginia's shooting percentages.
Five to shoot. Clark back out beyond the arc. Somebody's got to let it go, and it's Diakite. Prentice Hub coming off just 3 points in the Sunday night game against Clemson. And if they can win with Hub scoring only 3, it's a good sign for the Irish. And that was a bit of a different game as well, with Amir Sims out with the flu in that Sunday game at Littlejohn.
And they've been winning without offensive production from Hub, who's only 4 for his last 20 from 3-point range during this 4-game winning streak for Notre Dame. And you're talking before that is a young man that was putting up 24s and 22s, had multiple 20-point games for the Irish, but they weren't in wins. So although Prentice Hub, of course, wants to put up numbers, he'll take winning over his stats any day.
24s and 22s. For all of a sudden, you're giving me a flashback to like 2007, and Exhibit is showing me my new car on Pimp My Ride, and that's what I've got. Although I don't think those are really good rim sizes, right?
24s might not be great on a car. They're pretty good on a truck. 22s, you can do that on a car. You know, I know a few things about some rims.
Notre Dame has missed 5 straight shots, scoreless for almost 4 minutes now. That touches just about every part of the apparatus. And fails to drop. Nate Laszewski seeing his first minutes tonight, and early action as well for Nikola Jogo.
And Laszewski wasted no time coming in and taking that shot, as does Walter Tenzai. Maybe a little quick in the shot clock, but he's shooting the basketball so well. Tony Bennett will give him a pass on that one, especially when you come up with a steal on the other end of the floor.
Hub dribbled it right off the green Under Armour sneaker and back to Virginia. Rolled to Tensai, found Diakite from the short corner, and he's going to the free throw line. He had the size advantage to be certain under the basket there. Notre Dame is under consideration, so things can tilt either way with whoever wins this game.
Well, both of these teams, I'm sure, hope they're like me right now, and none of these bubbles could pop. So that's what they're looking for, and both teams, of course, wanting a win to build on that resume, but more importantly, continue to play very good basketball going down the stretch. 8 regular season ACC games remaining for both these teams, so this is the time to make a push for both Virginia and Mike Brey's Notre Dame Fighting Irish, especially if you want to participate in the NCAA tournament.
Notre Dame defeated Clemson Sunday night 61-57 to extend their winning streak to 4. In a gauntlet right now with Virginia, Duke Saturday, and then North Carolina coming up on Big Monday as well. Virginia winners of 4 out of 6. 5 to shoot for the Irish. Hub with a contested 3. High archer grabbed by Goodwin. Southpaw try on the return, sends it wide. So the two teams now have combined to miss 20 of 27 shots to start.
But I don't think there's going to be anyone watching this game surprised about that. When you see the, scoring droughts happen in this game, Notre Dame, a very good offensive team, not the teams that we've seen from Mike Brey in the past. And of course, we know about the struggles for Virginia on the offensive end of the floor. But Notre Dame is an improved defensive team, and Virginia always is one of the best in the country.
6 straight years for the Cavaliers being in the top 50 of offensive efficiency. They started this week 229th with a nice bump after that Saturday scoring output against Louisville. Back inside to Mooney after a quick breather for him on the bench, and he takes that size and shoulders right into Francisco Cafaro. Well, Mike Brey said they're going to go inside out, certainly to start today, but he also said they wanted to flatten out their offense. And for people watching who don't know what that means, can you explain that?
Well, one of the things he knows that Virginia is so good at guarding any kind of screening action. So basically changing the angle on your screens, keeping them lower on the floor, so you give your players opportunity to come off and shoot the basketball instead of playing a lot of pick and roll action, where Virginia is great at getting out of trapping behind Tony Bennett, and everything that he's done defensively and brought here, of course, not only a national championship, but a program that is, throughout the 18-game schedule of the ACC, Virginia owned the 18-game schedule, a 17-1 season, as well as 3-16-2. So this is a program that has really found their way to the top of the ACC. No team has more ACC wins over the last 3 seasons than Tony Bennett and his program here at the University of Virginia.
He told us in the locker room before the game that there's not too much of an adjustment for him. Usually you're used to a 7 o'clock start, 9 o'clock start. It's really just a 2-hour delay on when he drinks his cup of coffee before the game.
Well, it is a difference, because one of the things that you don't have is the team isn't around each other as much throughout the day. They didn't have shoot-around today. Of course, guys came in and got shots up on their own, but there was no shoot-around opportunity because it's so late and is trying to get involved. So it is a difference when you play this game. Notre Dame did have shoot-around. Dane Goodwin knocked down 3 after 3. I watched him shooting, and it's paid off as he's able to knock down the 3 on the wing to give Notre Dame the 2-point lead.
40% three-point shooter gives them tremendous ability to be able to come off the bench and presents himself right now as one of the front runners for the ACC 6th Man of the Year.
I was posed that question a couple weeks back if he was the front runner, and I wouldn't give in, because I had to really think about who else was coming off the bench and putting up numbers like Dane Goodwin. But he's the only major conference player coming in averaging over 11.5 points per game. So I've got to go Dane Goodwin for ACC 6th Man of the Year right now.
And the qualifier for that being to have started fewer than 3 games, averaging 10 points a game. The last 2 years, I mean, you look at the names of these guys who have been the 6th Man of the Year in this league. 2 years ago, he lived here, DeAndre Hunter. And then last year, Mfiondu Kabengele had a phenomenal season at Florida State. Key with the strength advantage against Leschewski. A lowered shoulder gives him 2.
And Braxton Key, who was the hero in the Clemson game, 19 points here, struggled to shoot the basketball against Louisville, only 3 for 7 from the field for 7 points, but those 7 points took him over 1,000 for his career. When you include the points that he scored at Alabama, and Prentice Hub breaking out of his shooting slump, his second three-pointer on the late evening.
Cafaro thought about it and outside for Key. Ian Clark, 2 primary scorers on the floor right now for Virginia, and Kihei weasels his way into the lane for a basket.
And a nice play by Kihei Clark. And early in the year, Kihei Clark was going in and trying to challenge the bigs and trying to shoot floaters and get the basketball over top. That time was very patient, and instead of trying to float over top of the big, was able to use a pump fake to find a crease and finish it off. Notre Dame offensively off of the broken play, finding Dane Goodwin shooting the ball with tremendous confidence, knocking down the 3. Yes to that one. I have been there.
I like the historical part, but really I'm all about the food, so you cap it off with an afternoon at Mickey Tavern and you really make it a good day.
Fair enough. And you talk about history. Let me tell you a couple things that happened today. And all of it 30 years ago today, February 11th, 1990, Magic Johnson won the MVP of the All-Star game in Miami. Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson in Japan the same day, as well as Nelson Mandela released from prison today. 1990, February 11th, pretty historic.
Big day.
Yeah, a huge day.
Big day for both of these teams, too, trying to work themselves into tournament conversation even further than it is now. The foul is on Jay Huff for Virginia on a strong take to the basket from John Mooney.
And Kihei Clark trying to catch a little premature confetti falling from the ceiling. Kihei was able to get a hand on it, but as Mamdi Diakite and Jay Huff both combined for what they thought would be a block shot.
We'll have a couple of top 10 teams with our full day of Saturday college hoops on ESPN and the ESPN app. 4 Eastern, it'll be at Notre Dame. Traveling to Cameron Indoor to take on Duke, and then it'll be number 9 Maryland trying to remain atop the Big Ten when they take on Michigan State, which has had a wild ride of a season.
And how about Mike Brey keeping his team on an NBA level road trip, playing in Clemson on Saturday, instead of going back to South Bend, flying directly to Charlottesville. They've been here since Sunday. So in a late game, so you can only imagine how antsy his team was to get out here and get this game started after being away from home for 4 days.
Well, if you get out on the mall in Charlottesville, you got a lot of options.
I tell you what, speaking of options, that's a great option for Virginia to get offense from Casey Marcel, who has struggled offensively, but getting in, knocking down the basket early, and he is one of the best, if not the best, on-ball defenders that Virginia has, as Leschewski's able to knock down the 3. But if Casey Marcel is able to come in and play with some confidence offensively and what he does defensively, that is a great option for Tony Bennett to have on the floor, especially with Walter Tenzai shooting the basketball as well as he has.
We know how talented Marcel is. It has not always been evident this year in game action. Had a huge game against Arizona State, scored 19 after a phenomenal career at St. John's College High School out of the powerful WCAC in the DC metro area.
And he's had freshman struggles. And of course, here at the University of Virginia, his first year. But on the basketball court...
How dare you say a freshman?
Well, on the basketball court, he is a freshman. So they are freshman struggles that he's gone through, and right now battling with his confidence. But he's a very talented young man and a great kid, to say the least, about him. And that's one of the things that everyone raves about Casey, is how much they love him as a person. And you root for a guy like that because you want him to do so well.
Off of Braxton Key, 12 to shoot for Notre Dame. Is there an extra element of, say, resiliency that you need as a young man, 17, 18, to play for Tony Bennett, whereas a freshman, generally speaking, the minutes do not come easily?
I would say yes to Tony Bennett, but even more so to college basketball. Yes with Tony Bennett because he has to gain a level of trust with you, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And, notoriously he hasn't, played freshman in a lot of other positions outside of point guard. One thing that he has done, when you look at Kihei Clark, who started a lot of games as a freshman point guard, London Prentice did the same. Bub Evans did the same. So he's had a number of guys throughout his career coaching at the University of Virginia where he's played freshman point guard, but those are all guys that come in with a certain level of basketball feel and IQ that he trusts you on the court from day one.
Pfluger with a whip to Leschewski, who's denied at the rim. His shot erased. Notre Dame's lead stays at 3.
And if that's Diakite's first block, he's now 2 away from second all-time at the University of Virginia. Right now sits behind my former teammate, Chris Alexander, who is only second to Ralph Sampson, who no one will ever catch.
You look at, you can say second place, and that is so misleading, because I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
426.
The gap between 1 and 2 is insurmountable.
The number for Ralph is 426 blocks.
You'd have to play 20 years of college basketball to catch
and again, if you can block shots at the level that Ralph Sampson blocked shots as a freshman, you will only play 1 year of college basketball.
That's right.
So no one will ever come close to that.
Pfluger with 3 to shoot. Not pretty off the fadeaway. Pfluger called for the foul on the baseline drive. His first. The Irish by 3, 3:28 first half. Streak, and Virginia losers on Saturday, but they've won 4 out of 6 and fighting for relevancy in the NCAA tournament conversation, with Virginia the 4th and final team right now from the ACC into Joe Lunardi's projected field. Notre Dame under consideration. Kihei Clark, a shot clock beating floater. He's got 4.
And Kihei Clark has become much more aggressive with the offensive end of the floor. You're talking about a young man that Tony Bennett rarely takes off the court, has played the entire game in 5 ACC contests, including 45 minutes for Syracuse. So he's a guy that Tony Bennett trusts so much. And the offense has changed a lot around Kihei because he's become a much more ball-dominant player.
Count the bucket for Durham. The foul on Braxton Key in the restricted arc.
But the reason why Tony Bennett trusts Kihei so much is because you recognize his basketball IQ, and knowing that he's playing against a shot blocker, the pump fake to get Juwan Durham in the air, and then the easy buckets. The second time we've seen Kihei do that in the paint this game. But Durham is able to come back and respond with the bucket. Misses the opportunity for the and 1.
Corey, there are times watching Clark who, when he gets under the basket, he's got to drive and the speed to get past perimeter defenders. He doesn't take the shot, but there was one moment in the second half against Louisville this past weekend. He goes under the basket, goes out beyond the arc, and then takes the 3. He gives up the 2 for 3.
Did he make it?
Yeah.
Great shot.
It's Diakite to get Virginia within 1. Nobody has led by more than 1 possession all game in the first 18 minutes.
And I love seeing Mamadi Diakite playing with his back to the basket, going to the jump hook. He's more athletic than most of the players he's going to play against. However, Juwan Durham showing off his athleticism off of a beautiful find by Prentice Hub. And Hub handling the basketball extremely well in this game, distributing well. Had only 1 assist to 6 turnovers in a win at Clemson, which is very un-Notre Dame-like, as well as very un-Prentice Hub-like. Prentice Hub playing with a lot of confidence here, and the family and friends, of course, played at Gonzaga High School in that infamous WCAC that you spoke about before. But and you see Hub getting into the paint and finding Juwan Durham, and that's a beautiful find to where only his teammate can get to it. You know, and one thing we've seen from Mike Brey is Juwan Durham playing well, and he's actually become the guy more so than Mooney has in this first half that they played the 4 guards around.
Which is interesting because he said they feel like they've got a better defensive strategy with the 2 bigs on the floor. But they've also got one of their better scorers out there in Dane Goodwin. Mike Brey says he's always fighting the urge with his assistant coaches to go small. He just likes to, as he says, downshift.
But one of the things we've seen from both these coaches all season long is they've played lineups to match to what the opposing team is doing. I had Notre Dame when they played at home against Louisville, and he went small and was able to make that a game after Louisville was up big. We've seen Tony Bennett play the big lineup with Braxton Key at the 3, Diakite at the 4, and Huff at the 5. But we've also seen them go small as they are now with Key at the 4.
Well, the 10-size pass went to Braxton Key's vapor trail, and here comes Gibbs.
That just didn't look good coming off Gibbs' hands, which is rare for ACC play where he's shooting over 50% from 3.
He started off 0 for 4. The crossover is back for a 7th year tomorrow and Thursday on ESPN and on the app as well. It's a college analyst and an NBA analyst. Twice the basketball. Don't answer. The answer is no.
Okay, if I can't answer, then of course the answer is no. But how about Mark Jackson and Bill Walton? Now, how many times in that game, over-under, do you say, and speaking of over-under, beautiful up and under by Mooney Diakite along the baseline. How many times will Mark Jackson say to Bill Walton during that game, what are you talking about, man? I need an over-under number on that.
Mama, there goes that non-sequitur in that game. Gibbs from the corner and gets his first shot.
Great patience by Prentice Hubb on that possession.
Clark, can he go 94 feet? Yes, but he leaves it short, and this is the largest lead for either team, 4 at the half.
And you see Prentice Hubb and TJ Gibbs meeting at half court. Gibbs respecting what Prentice did on the earlier play. He has been able to operate inside out, getting big production from Juwan Durham. But when we look at this blind resume and we try to figure out who these teams are, Mike Cousins.
Do I open my eyes for this part?
Yeah, take the blindfold off.
Okay.
Take the blindfold off. But, you know, when you look at it, and I would have to say, strength of schedule, I'm going to go with that. Ooh, wait a minute. That's not fair. Who put teams outside the ACC on here? Again,
oh, no, we found the limits on which Corey will opine.
Yeah, well, when you look at it and you see Virginia with the BPI 42, Notre Dame 47, I would think that they are way ahead of a Stanford, which is in the Pac-12. But this is where, you know, the naysayers talk about the ACC and how it's down, but yet you're talking about teams that aren't in the consideration for NCAA tournament, yet they have higher BPIs than other teams that are. So not the best year for the ACC, but not as bad as I feel a lot of people are making it out to be.
Well, Virginia went Saturday from one of the last 4 teams in the field. They lost against Louisville, and now they're an 11 seed according to Joe Lunardi's projections today. Pfluger switched hands as he went to the lane. The indecision cost him, and it's a foul as Durham collided with Huff.
We look at bracketology with Joe Lunardi right now. Virginia in the field, and you look at the last 4 in Indiana, Stanford, East Tennessee State, and VCU. But when we looked at Stanford as the last 4 in, Notre Dame's resume seems to be better than does Stanford. And so that's really the concern. Now, Stanford got off to a great start in non-conference play, but yet, when you look at the numbers behind Notre Dame, when we saw the blind resume, you have to give Mike Brey's team a chance. And now, of course, they have to do the work on the court and take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them as we go back and look at the resumes. And you see Stanford with, you know, by all metrics, lesser numbers than Virginia and Notre Dame. However, their net is higher at 30, even though their strength of schedule at 104.
Offensive foul, Braxton Key. That's his second personal. Picked up 90 seconds into the second half. Rolled to 10 side, takes it away. Steals hard to come by between either of these two teams. He's well guarded by Mooney, coming off that 7-made 3 performance on Saturday as he dropped in 27. Clark, one more for Huff. And Mooney grabs the rebound. Double-double watch for Mooney. It's 7 rebounds, 5 points for John Mooney, who's got 19 double-doubles this year and 40 for his career.
A great hustle by Jay Huff there to get back and save the dunk. Kihei Clark unable to finish, which would have made that a 4-point swing. But right now, Prentice Hub, who tried to go for the home run pass, it didn't work out. Now slowing down the offense and trying to make sure they get a quality look on this end of the floor.
He delivered a nearly impossible pass to Durham, who then travels, and it's Virginia's ball. Still 26-22. Nobody's scored yet.
And back-to-back turnovers for Notre Dame. And just like that, you see the substitution. Beautiful dime by Prentice Hub, but Durham unable to gather himself and finish. But now, not only does Notre Dame go, you can't really say they went smaller because you bring in Leshevsky, who's about 6'9", but you get Goodwin back on the floor. And Mike Brey told us it doesn't take him long to substitute in that second half. He's going to start the same way.
3 for Kihei Clark. Mooney with a soft touch over the 7-footer Jay Huff.
I love John Mooney, his ability to stretch the floor, shoot the basketball on the perimeter, and play with his back to the basket. But I can tell you right now, oftentimes when I look at Mooney when he shoots the basketball, not the typical form. And oftentimes you say to yourself, that's not going in, and then there you find it at the bottom of the net.
Do you think, and this is somewhat of a caveat, there aren't a lot of guys who are going to guard him who are taller than he is, but that hitch and late release gives him an advantage of maybe a split second?
It throws you off a little bit, because I think when he faces guys up, and these are shots, these are ISO shots. So when you think about it, you're not really expecting in college basketball a guy to just square you up and take a jump shot right in your face, but he does that. I do believe that release may throw them off. Oftentimes players will mistime their jump trying to defend the shot. And this is different, because what you're seeing from Notre Dame, and oftentimes, is when they get a rebound, and if you go back and you look at Notre Dame traditionally as they've been in the ACC, they're pushing the basketball. But right now, TJ Gibbs doesn't push it. They want to be a little more deliberate on the offensive end of the floor and try to make sure they get a quality look and not play as fast against Virginia's defense.
Gibbs has been unusually off today. Just 3 points for him, shooting 1 of 6.
And he's coming in, shooting over 50% in ACC play and over 50% from beyond the three-point arc. So you're absolutely correct. Unusually off for for TJ Gibbs, but they need his offensive production if they want to try to get a win here on the road.
Diakite bodies Goodwin from the block. And Virginia is within 1.
But you look at the pace of Notre Dame. We've seen Notre Dame be a team that wants to play fast, walking the basketball up the floor. And I'm not sure if they're giving Virginia's defense maybe too much credit in recognizing that they're not going to be able to get anything quick in the shot clock, putting themselves up against the wall. But speaking of up against the wall, back to the basket, John Mooney able to finish with the jump hook and really showing off his game inside, outside, whatever you need from him. And of course, he's always reliable on the glass.
It's a team high 9 now for Moody. Hub picks up the foul. Game's leading scorer is Diakite with 11 of Virginia.
First half, they only scored 34 points in that game total. So Virginia clamped down defensively, and their defense normally gets better as the game goes along, trying to make that happen here in the second half versus the Fighting Irish.
Clark has to put it up and delivers. Kihei Clark second on UVA today with 9.
And Kihei Clark with a great drive, but more importantly, getting into the body of Juwan Durham, not allowing him to get to his maximum jump and contest that shot.
So no Mooney on the floor right now for Notre Dame coming out of that timeout. It's Pfluger, Hub, Durham, Goodwin, and Leshevsky who's got it now. He gets into key and gets the roll from about 5 feet. And you mentioned that one game where UVA has really limited the scoring output, but the Black Bears, the Orange, and the Hokies have all felt that pressure as well.
They really have. And Virginia right now 10-0 this season when holding opponents under 50 points in a game. But the interesting part of that stat is they've actually held 10 opponents under 50 points. And right now they give up 51.6 per game, which is the lowest nationally. And so you don't come into this building expecting to score a lot of points.
And they allow the lowest field goal percentage against them as well, with the opposition shooting just 36%. Notre Dame right now at 37%, but they've got their largest lead of the day at 5 points.
And now Notre Dame going to the zone defensively as Casey Morsell steps up and knocks down his second bucket of the game, and a three-pointer.
That's just his 11th made three of the year. Morsell, the freshman, came in 10 for 71 from three. That's 14%. Hub. Out of rhythm, nearly got it to go.
And right now, if Virginia's able to continue to shoot the basketball from beyond the arc, knock down some threes, it could get Notre Dame out of this zone.
Key's reverse layup, pinballs around, it belongs to Hub. Notre Dame with a 3-on-2, behind the back, bounce feed, Leschewski with the layup.
I'll tell you right now, Prentice Hub playing with a lot of confidence. We talked about he hasn't played great offensively coming in. 6 turnovers last time out to only 1 assist versus Clemson, and didn't shoot the basketball well, but you would never know. No hangover for Prentice Hub in this game.
Corey, that last bucket, the first fast break points of the game.
Well, we talked about before how Notre Dame really isn't pushing the basketball.
Unusually so.
Yeah, unusually so, not pushing it. And then Virginia will take their opportunities, but Notre Dame has done a very good job of not turning it over. You know, both these teams combining for 10 turnovers thus far in this game. So when you look at it, neither has really given up, and they haven't been live ball turnovers when they've gotten them. So the chances for us, you know, for fast break points haven't really been there, but Notre Dame taking advantage of it once they pick one up.
Diakite, a 73% free throw shooter, put to the line by Jawan Durham, who now sits after he picked up his 3rd foul.
And that's another one of the areas where you have seen Virginia struggle this season. And you're coming off of course, a year where you've got uncharacteristically great free throw shooters in Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter. But Virginia in the ACC play shooting only 69% from the free throw line. And that has hurt them at times in close games, especially coming down the stretch trying to finish. Virginia has had a lead, or at least been tied, in 11 of their 12 ACC games with 3 minutes remaining, and yet they have a 7-5 record in league coming in.
Leschewski for 3. And similarly, for Notre Dame, their early losses were big margins, and then as they got closer and closer and into ACC play, those margins shrank, but they've come out on the negative side more often than they'd like at 6-6 in conference play, but winners of 4 straight.
Miscommunication on the rebound, gives it back to Virginia, but the Fighting Irish getting out in transition. Prentice Hub, the nice move, and the nice dime to Nate Leschewski, who finishes off with.
Watch the future come alive.
Meet the first ever Mazda CX-30. Feel alive.
At T-Mobile, start 2020 off with a deal on iPhone 11 that'll have you seeing double. Right now, switch to T-Mobile and get 2 lines of unlimited for only $90 and 2 iPhone 11s on us. All on T-Mobile's newest, most powerful signal that goes farther than ever before. Get twice the deal with 2 lines of unlimited for $90 and 2 iPhone 11s on us.
Everything's better, yeah, it's better like that.
Only at T-Mobile.
And all my people say, oh yeah.
Win her heart with an extraordinary Valentine. Now,
And each and every one of them, of course, early entries into the NBA draft. And Tony Bennett really trying to, stay above water with those guys unexpectedly. I mean, you knew DeAndre Hunter would be headed to the NBA draft. Not sure about Ty Jerome or Kyle Guy, but when you consider that Virginia is where they are right now, 7-5 in the league, without those three guys, and you consider Jack Salt also graduating, it's really been a very good job, coaching that Tony Bennett and his staff have done this year, simply because very few teams will be able to absorb those type of losses, especially when you don't expect it. Duke expects it each year, and they're reloading. Virginia did not expect that last year, but continue to battle away, as do the Irish in the paint.
Over or under 7.5 teams across college basketball that could withstand the loss like Virginia did of that talent?
Way under. It's 2. It's Duke and it's Kentucky.
Yeah.
Because if you look at North Carolina.
Not this year.
Yeah, North Carolina lost Kobe White. They lost Nasir Little. And, of course, they lost the 3 seniors in Cam Johnson, Kenny Williams, and Luke May. And look at what's happened with North Carolina this year. And, again, you're talking about another one of the blue blood programs nationally. But I only believe that there are 2 programs nationally that can withstand that type of loss, and that's Duke and Kentucky, because they've already reloaded for the next year.
And part of that is, if you're in there as a freshman who's expected to be one and done, you're looking behind you going, I might have to leave even if I'm not ready yet.
You better get ready.
John Mooney picking up his first foul. Mooney has had an unusually quiet day, even though he's a point away from his 20th double-double of the year. He's got 9 points to go along with 10 rebounds.
And had a streak earlier this year of 12 consecutive double-doubles, which is the most in Notre Dame history, passing Luke Herringody. Was broken against Florida State, but off to another streak. And he is Mr. Double-Double in the ACC right now, as you mentioned, looking for double-double number 20 here tonight.
What's really amazing to think is that even though he's got 40 in his career, he won't be able to break the school record because Luke Herringody from 2006 to 2010 racked up 64 of them.
But Herringody did them a lot earlier in his Notre Dame career. Mooney really didn't get into the rotation until his junior year at Notre Dame. Got some minutes spelling Bonzie Colson when Colson was injured, but he became a starter as a junior and hasn't looked back. And Jay Huff is able to knock down the 3 to tie this game at 38.
His first points of the night come at the perfect time for the Wahoos. Off the Mooney miss, Hub comes up with it and denies Virginia a chance for their first lead since it was 10-9 Cavaliers.
That's a big play, especially when you're on the road. If Notre Dame was able to come up with the score here, give Prentice Hub a tremendous amount of credit for coming up with a big play, but it looks like P.A. Clark had a stop. Hub able to retain the basketball.
They need a shot, 1 to let it go. And the high arcer for Mooney is a shot clock violation, and nothing gets the crowd going at JPJ more than a 0 on the shot clock.
Jay Huff, intelligent enough to step up, double team the basketball, forcing a 17th shot clock violation of this season for the University of Virginia's defense. Now the game tied at 38. Virginia gets the basketball with an opportunity to take a lead over the Fighting Irish.
Last time they led it was 10-9 early in the first half. He's Corey Alexander, the former Virginia Cavalier and NBA guard. Mike Cousins, glad you're with us here from Charlottesville. And another game to go yet tonight here on ESPN2 as you'll see undefeated San Diego State take on New Mexico and try and get to 25-0 late night in the Mountain West. Jay Huff puts UVA in front.
Great stretch for Jay Huff, the 3-pointer to tie it, and now the back to the basket bucket.
of good games looking ahead to Saturday. Stay on ESPN and the ESPN app wherever you go. It'll be Notre Dame going to Cameron Indoor to take on number 7 Duke, part of their gauntlet stretch continuing. And then number 9 Maryland trying to stay atop the Big Ten when they square off against preseason number 1 Michigan State, which is entirely out of the top 25.
And you talk about defense once again. Virginia not playing with just 1, but 2 shot blockers on the interior. We talked about Mamadi Diakite trying to become second on the list, but this time it's Jay Huff, who leads Virginia in blocks this season, coming over, helping Kihei Clark, denying the opportunity. Clark is fouled going out of bounds. Virginia now with an opportunity to build on this lead. And, you know, we talk about Virginia's defense, but last night I was able to watch the Duke-Florida State game. Those are 2 great defensive teams. And Jay Huff continues his 8-0 run personally against the Irish.
Mooney fails to end a 10-0 Virginia run with 8 of those points coming from Jay Huff. The Cavaliers with their largest lead of the night here at home. Gibbs steps in front. And the run ends with a Prentice Hub layup.
And it's a small thing, Cuzzo, but Jay Huff waiting for the basketball to come to him like a wide receiver who allows the defensive back to come in and get the interception. Instead of going to the basketball, it was tipped out of the trap by Notre Dame, and it ends up being 2 points on the other end of the floor for the Fighting Irish. It's the small things that cost you in big games.
Hub got it poked away. Pfluger jumped right in on it, and the possession arrow keeps it at this end of the floor. Some intense competition there between the 7-footer and Pfluger. We're coming right.
Footwork in the post, does not pick up that pivot foot, no travel, getting the job done not only offensively but defensively as well, blocking the shot, and just for good measure, knocking down the 3 at the top of the key. Only to the celebration, the choreographed celebration. Francisco Cafaro, Kadeem Shedrick, looking like new addition on the sideline.
Mike Cousins, Corey Alexander, glad to have you along with us. It's coming right down to the wire, as did NC State and Syracuse before this one. Here in the ACC, Diakite leaps over Leszewski, who is laying on the bottom of the lane. Back to a 5-point lead for the Cavaliers. Ties their largest of the night. Leading scorer for Notre Dame, Prentice Hub with 10. And Leszewski with soft touch makes it a 3-point game once again.
And nice find by Rex Pfluger. And that's the one area where Mike Brey loves to have Rex Pfluger on the floor, especially at the end of the games. He feels like he's their guy that makes winning plays, whether it's coming up with a big rebound, a defensive stop, a steal, or even knocking down a big shot. Whatever it may be, they get that production from Rex Pfluger.
Pfluger in the Mendoza Business School. He's going to come away with an MBA after this year. And let's just change one letter from NBA to NBA and tell you about the crossover back for a 7th year. Tomorrow, Thursday, on ESPN and the app, it's a college analyst with an NBA analyst. Doris and Fonz, Jeff Van Gundy, and Jimmy Dykes. And then Doris, for the next night, we'll see Memphis, Cincinnati, along with Bryce Drew, Mark Jackson, and Bill Walton in the Conference of Champions, Colorado and Oregon. Notre Dame has led for most of this game, trying to do something that they have yet to do as a conference opponent of Virginia. The only time they've beaten them in the ACC was in the ACC tournament regular season. Mike Brey versus Tony Bennett. It is 8-0 in favor of Tony Bennett.
And that rivalry goes back a while. It's not just, you know, since Notre Dame has been in the ACC, it goes back to Bryant Stiff and LaFonso Ellis. Corey Alexander versus Elmer Bennett. Played those guys twice, 91-92, of course.
That was a very humble third-person reference to yourself.
Oh, was I talking about me?
Never.
Okay.
On the break. Too much. Mooney with the tip in to follow on Gibbs.
I believe that will be a double-double for one John Mooney. Once again, 20 on the season, and by simply hustling and not giving up on the play.
Ties him for the national lead with Nathan Knight of William and Mary. And that'll hold for a couple days because William and Mary's not back in action until Thursday when they host Drexel. Leschewski falls for the loose ball. Clark reaches in. And Leschewski is granted the timeout by Ron Groover.
And remember that play, 4-14. Leschewski getting on the floor and getting to the 50-50 ball where Kihei Clark did not get on the floor to pick it up. And something that you'll have to look at as this game goes along. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Mr. Double-Double, John Mooney, getting it done once again.
His 20th of the season. He did miss one game this year against Presbyterian with an illness. 41 for his career.
I always like to say that John Mooney starts with 10. Everything he does beyond that is how well of a game he played. And right now, he's only pretty much got 2 rebounds because 12 only gets him to 2 when you consider this is an average game for John Mooney as he averages 13 a game cleaning up the glass. And one of the areas of concern for Notre Dame has been rebounding the basketball. I honestly believe that the team relies on Mooney too much to go get every rebound, as Kihei Clark does a great job getting in position in front of Prentice Hub and picking up the offensive foul.
Mike Brey was very verbal in his disagreement with the call from Doug Shouse, but even Hub knew that the extension of the arm was going to send it the other way. So his third foul. Mike Brey, by the way, came out in the second half. No sport coat, so it wasn't a recent toss. Meanwhile, up in central New York, they're tracking the wins and losses when Jim Boeheim throws his coat this year.
Well, both these coaches opting, the head coaches opting to go with no tie in this game.
But that's a Tony Bennett staple.
You know what's so crazy is Tony never liked the tie, but when he came to Virginia, he did a very good job of wearing the tie to appease the UVA faithful. But when you win a national championship, you can pretty much do whatever you want. So he shed the tie for the majority of this year.
And gone with a very nice pocket square to accent the outfit this year. Clark shovels it, and Diakite takes the foul on the baseline for Mooney. Tony's only 50 years old, the native Wisconsinite. Hard to match what he's done the last 8 years, winning an average of 28 games a year.
Wait. Only 50? Now, when you say Corey's 46, you don't say it like it's a small number.
I wasn't bringing up your age, but you just...
but you do often. And when you do, you don't say it like only 46. You'd be like, wow, Corey's 46. That's a lot.
Anyway, I can take a shot at you. I'm absolutely going to welcome that opportunity.
Thanks. With cousins like you, who needs enemies?
It's all relative, Corey. 45-44, Virginia trying to stave off Notre Dame, defeating them for the first time in the regular season. As members of the ACC, as the Irish look to extend their winning streak to 5. Jay Huff getting ready to check in next for Virginia. And the Irish leapfrog back in front on a 3 on an otherwise pretty quiet night from TJ Gibbs, their second leading scorer.
But TJ Gibbs looked in rhythm on that shot. Many of his shots, it seemed as though he's rushed them to try to get them off before the Virginia defense can recover to him. He looked in rhythm on that shot and confident in letting it go.
He missed 8 in a row before that shot. Another board for Mooney.
Now remember, we mentioned it earlier. Virginia has tied or had a lead with 3 minutes remaining in 11 of their 12 ACC games. And they were up before that last 3 by Prentice Hub, so it would be the same case with this one. Now will they be able to finish? Tony Bennett talked to us about having that guy that can make a play, whether it's a big shot, a big stop, or coming up with a big defensive rebound, whatever it may be, to win a game.
That shot was from Palmyra and just clipped the front of the rim for Hub.
Well, only 2 seconds remaining on the shot clock. Prentice Hub recognizing it, not wanting to give Virginia another shot clock violation. and has to let it fly just to keep the game in action.
Sports Center tonight after Michigan State, Illinois with Bucci and Anderson. Tim Legler will break down Clippers, Sixers. Get an inside look at Zion's return against the Trailblazers. The impact of baseball's cheating scandal at spring training. Sports Center is after Big Ten hoops on ESPN and the ESPN app. Michigan State and Illinois later tonight on ESPN.
I haven't really been following. Did the Red Sox hire a manager today?
They did.
They did.
Yes.
Okay, because pitchers and catchers report today. So they do now have a manager in place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to get that figured out before you report for pitchers and catchers.
It's kind of important. It's kind of important.
Minute 37 to go. Notre Dame 6-6 in the ACC. Virginia 7-5 with this year. Joe Lunardi projecting just 4 ACC teams in. The top 3 in this league have distanced themselves from everybody else, and then Virginia is the 11th seed with Louisville, Duke, and Florida State being the other.
Yeah, I was talking about the Duke-Florida State game yesterday. 2 high-level defensive teams, a great basketball game. Hard to say one is better than the other. Of course, Duke getting the win on their home court and a neutral site, that really would be a battle. Florida State going on the road, beating Louisville, so we'll see how this thing all plays out when the Cards go to Tallahassee February 24th to take on the Florida State Seminoles. Because right now it's those 3 teams at the top of the ACC. Virginia, Notre Dame, Syracuse, NC State all in the battle to try to represent the ACC in the NCAA tournament as well.
And the rematch of Virginia-Louisville, the regular season finale here at JPJ, March 7th.
And Mamadi Diakite floating that pass, giving Prentice Hub an opportunity to get over in the passing lane, and coming up with a big steal for the Fighting Irish, who can make this a 2-possession lead here on this possession.
And the hard hedge hurts Huff as he gets called for the foul, hitting the hip of Prentice Hub.
Say that again quickly.
The hard hedge hurts Huff.
Okay,
hitting the hip.
That's talent, Mike Cousins.
Alliteration is fun. Minute to go. Notre Dame by 2. Leszewski lets it fly. High board belongs to the 7-footer. Inside Diakite versus Mooney. Dribble, jump stop, fade, and 2. Tied at 47. Notre Dame's got a timeout if they want it.
And Mike Brey is going to take the timeout. He wants to draw it up and make sure they get exactly what they want on the offensive end of the floor. And more importantly, not take a shot until the absolute latest time possible to not give Virginia an opportunity. Mamadi Diakite with the face up, but then recognizing he could play over the top of John Mooney and is able to finish with the jump hook to tie this game at 47. We've seen a number of overtime games here for the University of Virginia. Syracuse comes to mind. And, of course, Notre Dame is going to try to end it in regulation, 20.1 seconds. But when you're playing against the best defensive team in the country, you may have to prepare for an additional 5 minutes.
That was a much-needed bucket for Virginia. Ended an almost 6.5-minute scoring drought as Diakite got it to fall. He's 17th in scoring in the ACC, but he's their leader at 13 points a game. Part of that's the system they play in, fewer possessions. Let's look ahead to this final possession now for Notre Dame. Leszewski and Mooney, their leading scorers today with 11. Hub can get a shot from just about anywhere. He's got 10. And who do you think Mike Brey will rely on in this final possession?
I honestly believe it will be pick-and-roll action between Prentice Hub and John Mooney at the top of the key. Mooney will roll to the basket. Nate Leszewski will pop out. So basically roll and replace. And when you see that, you'll give Prentice Hub an option to be able to find one of those 2 guys in the middle of the floor with TJ Gibbs on one side, Rex Pfluger on the other. Either one of those guys capable of knocking down a big shot. But the most important thing for Notre Dame is to make sure they take care of the basketball, no turnovers, and don't give Virginia an opportunity offensively at the end of this game.
Anybody on the floor right now is a capable 3-point shooter for Notre Dame, and Virginia is big with Diakite, Huff, and Key. to help guard the basket. Wolda, Tensai, and Clark on the floor as well for the Cavaliers. Here's Hub. Foul on Clark, stops the clock, 13.1, just the 4th team foul for Virginia.
And a good foul simply because now you give Notre Dame less time, but Mike Brey recognizes that he knows Virginia's going to do that coming out. Prentice Hub was prepared. Virginia can do it again to make sure they take even less time off the clock. As Kihei Clark does that smart foul. And now with 6 seconds, you have much less time to be able to operate and get into a set. Played very well by Virginia, putting the pressure on Notre Dame to be able to go quickly to try to win this game here in regulation.
Still a foul to give, and he does as exactly 3 more seconds come off the clock. Next foul is the bonus, and so it's just 3 seconds for Notre Dame to try and win it, or it's overtime.
A good thing Kihei Clark only had 1 foul.
In for Mooney to try and win it. And he's stuffed under the basket. Now the officials, with fewer than 2 minutes to go here in regulation, can go to the clock, or go to the monitor rather, to see if there's going to be any time to put back on the clock where that ball hit on the baseline. And at best, you'd think maybe a couple tenths of a second.
But here's the question. If it is a couple tenths of a second, who does the basketball go to? Was it called out on Virginia where there was a shot blocked? And so with the shot being blocked, would Notre Dame get the basketball back? So if you're Virginia, you're hoping that the time has expired. If you're Notre Dame, you're looking for, at least 3/10 of a second.
Ron Groover comes over to say 3/10 of a second.
And the reason why you want 3/10 because that's enough time to be able to catch and shoot. And so right now, Notre Dame with the basketball under the basket, still with an opportunity here to try to win it in regulation.
3/10, the legal minimum for a catch and shoot. Otherwise, it'd have to be a tip.
And 3/10 is a quick release. John Mooney can't get a shot off in 3/10 of a second. Nate Laszewski can. That's one of the things that Mike Brey will be considering. Who are his quick triggers? If they're not going to throw it up for a tip, who's going to be the guy with the quickest trigger? And I would have to, if I'm going to vote, I'm going Nate Laszewski simply because at 6'9", he can shoot over most defenders, but he has a very quick trigger.
Virginia takes a look at the offensive setup for Notre Dame and then calls a timeout. That last opportunity there for Notre Dame, you like that because they take it in, and even if Mooney doesn't make it, there's the opportunity to get yourself to the free throw line?
Absolutely. I love it. And again, there is contact on the play. The officials decide not to make a call. And I'm not saying that there was a foul, but there was contact. But I like the fact that you go to the basket instead of moving away from the basket. But we talked about early in this game, we knew that Notre Dame wanted to play inside out. John Mooney got himself under the basket. There is contact, but a great defensive play by Jay Huff to block the shot. Mooney didn't do himself any favors by going underneath the basket. That would have been a difficult angle to try to score over the 7-footer of Huff. So great defense by Huff, but still an opportunity right here in regulation for the Fighting Irish to try to walk away with the road win. Now here's a play right here. You have to respect Laszewski. I'm not sure Braxton Key wants to be this close into the paint, but Prentice Hub does have a size advantage over Kihei Clark.
A shot for the win. No.
And remember, we talked about you got to have a quick trigger to get that off in 0.3 seconds. TJ Gibbs trigger not quick enough.
40 minutes, not enough to contain the excitement of Notre Dame and Virginia. And it's not often you go to overtime, and we've got the game after us, San Diego State, New Mexico. They're not even ready to tip off yet. We still got some time. Mike Cousins, Corey Alexander, glad to have you with us from John Paul Jones Arena as Virginia looks to get back on a winning streak. Their 3-game winning streak was snapped on Saturday. They've won 4 of 6. And Notre Dame is trying to make it a 5-game winning streak. You got to look back a while for the last time they've had this type of continued success. The last time they won a winning streak like this, 6 straight in the 16-17 season from the start of February to the beginning of March.
And Virginia right now, 1-1 on the season in overtime games. Lost here on their home court to Syracuse. The game that really got Syracuse started in ACC play, they were struggling coming in, and they really took off after that. One of the reasons why they're in consideration for an NCAA tournament bid, as well as a road win at Wake Forest in overtime. So Virginia has a little bit of overtime experience with this team.
Notre Dame started out lopsided margins within the ACC. Those margins are razor thin. Their last 6 combined losses by just 2 touchdowns. So 5 more minutes to play. It's Jay Huff and John Mooney, who met at the end of regulation, and here they go again. That's center court.
And both veteran teams, when you think about what you have on the floor right now, guys with a tremendous amount of experience. You've got 2 sophomore point guards in Clark and Hub, but both these guys have played a lot of basketball, and outside of that, Leshesky, the sophomore, but you're seeing a bunch of experience on the floor for both these teams going down the stretch.
Kihei Clark's the only player in this game to have played all 40 minutes.
And you also have to remember, Kihei Clark did use those 3 fouls at the end of the game, in the regulation, to get Virginia in the time to make sure they got away. So right now, he's only got 3 in the game. But can't be as aggressive defensively, because that's the one thing Tony Bennett does not want to do, is lose Kihei Clark in overtime.
Notre Dame tonight led by Leshesky and Mooney, each with 11, and Pfluger scoreless after an 18-point game. And that shot was contactless as it pertains to the rim and out of bounds for Leshesky.
And Leshesky has had that quick trigger, and some of his shots have looked a little rushed in this one as well. And you don't see a guy who shoots as well as Nate Leshesky does shoot a wide open air ball. So maybe he's thinking about it a little bit too much, but doing other things, as Mike Brey has talked about, rebounding better, playing better in the post.
Diakite sent sideways. And he's going to the line to try and put Virginia back in front.
And this is where it gets tough to keep Kihei Clark out of the lane. Great ball handler, beautiful move to get past the defenders. And you see, that's the old MJ stutter when Patrick Ewing was on the wrong side of a dunk. I'm sorry, Patrick Ewing and others on the wrong side of a dunk going along the baseline. Kihei Clark using that move beautifully to set up Mamadi Diakite.
Well, it was Clark's drive that set up these free throws for Diakite, and one of the keys for Mike Brey coming into this game, he felt like they did it decently well against Brandon Childress and Wake Forest, and hoped to do it today, was to keep Clark out of the lane and challenge Virginia to shoot threes, but not many have been able to stop Kihei Clark from navigating where he wants in the half court.
And it's also a change in offensive philosophy a bit for Tony Bennett, because you don't normally see a ball-dominant point guard for Virginia. They like to move the basketball, but Tony Bennett trusts Kihei Clark so much, and he doesn't have a lot of other ball handlers as he's had in the past. So Clark handles the basketball the majority of possessions and does a great job facilitating for his teammates.
Hub puts the ball on the deck, creates separation, and ties the game at 49. 12 now for the sophomore from Maryland.
And Prentice Hub has made big shots for the Fighting Irish all night, making big plays as well. And of course, he's close to home, not too far from DC, where he grew up playing at Gonzaga High School under Coach Steve Turner.
He's got some people here today.
He's got a few folks in the building. He told me only 8. His little brother had a game today, so they weren't able to make it. But I'm sure they're home watching now as Prentice steps up and makes a big step back to tie the game at 49 here in overtime.
A lot of contact there, no call as Gibbs got bumped at the basket. 49 all. Almost midway through this 5-minute overtime. Well, the Tensai comes off the screen. He recollects, guarded by the bigger Mooney. Foul is on the floor against TJ Gibbs. trying to defend the 7-footer Huff.
But because neither of these teams foul much, it's still going to be a 1-and-1 for Jay Huff. Now, very rarely will you find a game where you're playing in overtime and teams are still in the 1-and-1. And so right now, you look at Jay Huff, who's a 50% free throw shooter, going to the line and missing the first one. But again, if that's a double bonus, you get 2 shots. He knocks down the second one. Notre Dame and Virginia has a lead. So a big miss for Jay Huff on that possession, giving the Fighting Irish an opportunity to reclaim the lead here on this possession.
Yeah, this game had 7 combined team fouls in the first half. Mooney thought about it, drives, and he is going to the line. Same chance that Jay Huff had at the other end. Mooney marginally better, 64% from the stripe. The foul is on Diakite, his second. Joe Lunardi's guidance telling us that the Cavaliers are in the field right now as a number 11 seed. A loss tonight has them fall to the last 4 in. Loose ball foul after Mooney front rimmed the second free throw.
And right now, the consideration is who the foul is on. It's going to be on Mooney. But TJ Gibbs coming in and talking with Jeff Clark because he felt like Clark had someone else.
That a foul?
No.
I don't know.
And that's the reason why TJ Gibbs was having the conversation with Jeff Clark, because he didn't feel as though it was a foul, and he didn't think that Clark called the foul. Whoa.
That is a violation. We know, we saw it. Well, you know what? It was Mike Brey's disagreement with officiating that earned him a 5-figure fine from the ACC, but also what started this 4-game winning streak as well. They were 2-6. And now they're 6-6.
And he simply said that was the best money he's ever spent, as Braxton Key is able to knock home the second one.
It was technically an institutional fine, according to the league, but if you rack up a $20,000 bill, you got to pay that. You got to cut that check. You got to. Can you do $20,000 on Venmo or Cash App?
All I can say is I could put something on it.
I'll never know the answer to that question. 2 minutes to go. Good win for 3. Nearly went down. Just 3 points for him tonight.
And a good look for Goodwin, but at the same time, maybe a little bit rushed for Notre Dame. Instead of moving the basketball, I like them going inside to Mooney. I like Virginia going inside to Diakite. Let these 2 guys who were both preseason first team all ACC performers battle it out to see who can get the win here in the JPJ tonight.
And it poses the challenge for Notre Dame defensively of off of whom do you help on that pass inside to Diakite. There's not a good option. Five on the shot clock for Clark. His pass to the lane was cut off by Pfluger. Excellent help defense. Pfluger guarded by the long arms of Diakite. Gibbs with 7 to shoot. Now Hub into the lane, puts it up, and Key snares it for the Cavaliers.
1-point game right now. If you're Notre Dame, you don't need anything other than a stop. It's not time to foul. You got to play it out more than enough time. Even if Virginia does score, you want it to be a 2, not a 3, to keep it as a 1-possession game.
They can draw this down to about 16 seconds left for Notre Dame. Miss or make. Clark, shot fake, 3, no. 17.7 remaining for Notre Dame, which had a chance to win it at the end of regulation, and takes a timeout to set things up here.
I would have loved to see Kihei Clark get something. They haven't been able to keep him out of the paint all night long, as Lionel Richie once famously said. Getting into the paint.
Big Virginia basketball fan. Everyone knows that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Getting into the paint, if not scoring for himself, finding one of his teammates, even for a kick-out 3, which probably would have been a better look than the one that they got. Now, if you're Mike Brey with 17.7 seconds, I would go fast. Try to get going downhill, Prentice Hub, taking on Kihei Clark, trying to get his shoulders past, and find something at the rim to get a score or extend the game if you don't score. But more importantly, put the pressure on your defense to get a stop from Virginia more so than on your offense, wasting too much time on this end of the floor.
But no matter what, you got to give yourself a chance for more than one field goal attempt.
And which is the reason why I would go quickly. I like the fact that he called the timeout with the basketball underneath so that you can get a running start in comparison to having to take it out of half court with Virginia already in his set defense. Even though you're coming out of a dead ball, you can still get a running start, get downhill, use all 94 feet in comparison to playing 48, half of that in the half-court set.
To start tonight, Virginia and Notre Dame separated by 1 game in the win column, 1 in the loss column. 7-5, 6-6. 60% of ACC games this year have been decided by 10 points or fewer. This one, no exception. The officials are checking the clock, and they do make an adjustment. Half a second added on after the air ball. Once that ball lands out of bounds, play is stopped. And so they do make that adjustment from 17.7 to 18.2. Shooting has not been very good in overtime. Notre Dame 1 of 5 from the floor. Virginia 0 for 4.
And Virginia has lived at the free throw line in overtime, but they have made their free throws, which has given them the 1-point lead.
The overtime score, Virginia 3, Notre Dame 2. Pfluger will inbound. Hub ready to get it, joined by Gibbs, Mooney, and Leschewski on the floor for the Cavaliers. It's Clark, Morsell, Diakite, Key, and Woldetensack. Hub, 7 seconds, kicks to the corner, 3-pointer, no, Key's got it, and he just heaves it ahead. How wise from Braxton Key to win the game in overtime for Virginia.
Notre Dame got a look, and they love Rex Pfluger making big plays for them at the end. Prentice Hub does a great job getting past Kihei Clark, finding Pfluger in the corner. The 3 rims out, but Braxton Key, Oak Hill Academy, basketball IQ very high, throwing it out to the front court to end the game.